Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming for the second part of a three-part series on wellness for the CFO. Really excited to be able to introduce you to Joyce Matter again. Joyce has a remarkable background, and it's one of those people, if I were to read all of her accomplishments, it'd take 5 or 6 minutes and I'd develop an inferiority complex by the end of it. So I am going to skip that part and allow her to introduce herself. She's screen sharing already. Boy, you're efficient, Joyce. But a few things before we begin. I am going to ask you to keep your microphones and cameras off for the duration of this program. And also, if you have any questions, we have a chat area, so you can post them in the public chat area. However, if they're a little bit personal in nature and, given the topic, that might be the case, feel free to send them directly to me so nobody but you and I will know who the question is from. And also, we have CPE for this program. And to earn CPE, we have 4 CPE questions, 4 polling questions, which would be scattered throughout. You'll need to answer all 4 of them to earn the CPE. And we will mail a certificate over to you within about a week of the program being done. And other things, Joyce I was going to show a copy of your book, but I realize I'm off camera. But Joyce is the author of a book, The Financial Mindset Fix, a mental fitness program for an abundant life. We actually have sent an electronic copy of this book to all of the attendees for today through Amazon. I realize I've learned last week that many of you didn't get it. So if you still haven't, just shoot me an email to jack@cfolc.com and we will resend it. That said, Joyce, I'm just going to turn things over to you.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be with you again. Some of you may have attended part 1 of this 3-part series, which is called The Psychology of Success. So last time we talked about how to recover from overwork and burnout. And today we're talking about mindfulness to promote your mental well-being. And mindfulness is one of my absolute favorite strategies. And I'm excited to share about it with you. If you attended last session, you might remember that I've been a licensed psychotherapist for 25 years. I'm a national keynote speaker. I'm an entrepreneur that built and sold an outpatient mental health company called Urban Balance. I blog for Psychology Today, and I'm super passionate about destigmatizing mental health issues and promoting information, resources, and tools to promote mental well-being and access to care. So today we're talking about mindfulness. And some of you may be more or less familiar with mindfulness. I have a landing page for you. And this landing page you can access through that QR code, or I'm going to go ahead and pop it in the chat right now. And the landing page has copies of these slides. It also has the slides from my last presentation, if you missed that, as well as a bunch of other resources, a link to my new e-course with a coupon code for that, and a bunch of good stuff. So you'll definitely want to access that landing page that I just put in the chat. You do need to enter your email address, but then you'll have all of these resources to share with others and use in the future going forward. So today we're going to be talking about understanding what mindfulness is and what some of the benefits of practicing are and some of the obstacles. And I'm going to provide you with some practical tools and tips for increasing your mindfulness, and even talk about how mindfulness really helps cultivate emotional intelligence and can improve your relationships both at home and at work. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a philosophy that's rooted in Zen Buddhism. So it's thousands of years old. It is not a religion, it's a philosophy that if we ground ourselves in the present moment, we can calm our bodies and relax our minds, and we can tap into deeper intuition, and we can promote healing and wellness. And in mindfulness, across thousands of cultures and thousands of years, they say that the breath is what ties together the mind, the body, and the spirit. So an aspect of practicing mindfulness is connecting with your breath and doing other practices that connect with your senses and root you in your body. So a lot of us experience mind chatter, or we get kind of caught up in our heads and we get disconnected from our bodies. And so we're kind of intellectualized and not tapping into the deeper wisdom that's housed in our gut, in our heart, in our physical being. And so practicing mindfulness is a way to learn to observe yourself, to notice your thoughts and emotions, and increase your consciousness rather than being reactive. You can learn how to be more responsive. It increases your consciousness, your awareness, I believe your capacity for empathy and compassion. And the good news about mindfulness is it's free and easy to practice. So if you haven't muted, I can hear a couple little voices. Make sure that you're muted so that everybody can hear me. Thank you so much. So Jon Kabat-Zinn is really the founding father of modern day mindfulness. He has a YouTube channel that's fantastic. He's written a ton of books, and he really is the person that brought mindfulness to the United States, really in the 70s and 80s, and taught it as a stress reduction practice. And it's been a movement that has increased in popularity dramatically over the last 30 years or so. And mindfulness really, it helps us from either ruminating or second guessing about the past or worrying about the uncertainty of the future. So we get connected in the here and now, and it is a very helpful practice for a variety of different reasons. So why are we talking about mindfulness?
81.
Joyce, you need to unmute yourself because everybody was muted. So please unmute yourself.
All right, yay, I'm unmuted. So I skipped a slide. Why am I talking about mindfulness in the workplace to you all? Mindfulness in the workplace is something that Fortune 500 companies have implemented over the past 10 or 15 years or so. I've given mindfulness trainings at Boeing and AT&T and other large companies. These are some companies listed on this slide that have mindfulness in the workplace programming. So what does that mean? It means at their offices, they may have meditation rooms. They may actually have yoga available to employees. They may have other practices such as doing a meditation before a meeting. And I know that that might sound kind of strange, but I did this at Boeing. I was speaking for a number of people in the room and then also through WebEx to people around the globe in their other offices. And we did a deep breathing exercise and a short meditation. And afterwards, I asked people, what did you notice? And so many of the participants said that they were able to kind of stop thinking about what they'd been doing previously in the day and become rooted in the present moment and bring their attention to the meeting. One woman said even the experience of breathing and being in silence with her coworkers made them feel more connected and more synced up. And it was such a powerful experience for this group that they decided then to start every one of their meetings with a 3-minute breathing exercise and meditation, and to set an intention for the meeting. It really clears our mind of worries and anything else that's distracting us so that we can be fully present. And when we're fully present, we make better decisions and choices. We're better at problem solving, and we can be more collaborative. So why do companies pay to have mindfulness programming? You might remember this from the first presentation that briefly I discussed, that when people practice mindfulness in the workplace, it increases all of the aspects on the left side of the slide. So creative thinking, problem solving, focus and concentration, ethical decision making. We simply have sharper minds and are able to make better decisions. It also combats a lot of the burnout and fatigue that we talked about in the last presentation, which is especially common now since we're on our screens and devices so much, and many of us are overworking and pretty exhausted from everything we've been dealing with during the pandemic. So it actually helps us with our immune system. It reduces our stress. It helps us to be less emotionally exhausted. The research about mindfulness is staggering. It is shown to improve virtually everything about your mind, body, and spirit, and even relationships and finances. So when you connect with the here and now, you connect with your breath and your body and your deeper intuition, and you start to be present in your life where you're fully engaged in the moment and you're not distracted with thoughts about the past or the future. You're better in your relationships. You're present, you're listening, you're empathically and compassionately connected. It even improves your physical health, so reduces chronic pain, improves memory and cognition and decision making. It improves your immune system, your attention. It even decreases stress, anxiety, and depression and burnout. It improves your emotional intelligence. So basically, what I found in my own experience is that when I practice a short meditation, I go within my body and notice how I'm feeling inside of myself. So we're all in our heads so much that we might not even realize where we're holding tension in our body, or yuck, or uncomfortable feelings. Again, feelings are waves of energy that we store in the body. And so as we become more self-aware, we can take better care of ourselves. We can learn to process those feelings and to become aware of our negative thinking and how that causes self-limitation and self-sabotage. So mindfulness even improves sleep. I love listening to guided meditations for sleep. I'm a Peloton person, and on the Peloton app, there's a section for meditation, and they've got meditations for everything you can imagine. They've got meditations for calming yourself and relaxing yourself, which of course we can all use. They have meditations for courage that I use for some of my big onstage keynotes, or if I'm doing a TV interview or something like that. So really anything that you need. If you're experiencing anger or frustration, there are meditations to help you process your emotions. So mindfulness can also be applied to finance. And that's something we're going to talk more about in part 3 of the psychology of success, where I'm going to be talking about mental wealth and how to leverage psychology to improve your financial health. So when we spend mindfully, that is going to help us financially. And even in my business, I use mindfulness to help me make critical business decisions. And I'll share more about that in a bit. So Eckhart Tolle is one of my absolute favorite authors about mindfulness. He wrote The Power of Now and A New Earth. And he said, be at least as interested in what happens inside you as what happens outside. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. And so as a therapist, I have a lot of people come into my office and they're looking for a better job, a better relationship, for a bigger bank account or a better body. And those are all externals. And what I found is when we work on our inner self, on our relationship and connection to ourself, and we align our unique gifts with a need in the world, we're far more successful. So we have to do that inner kind of psycho-spiritual work first in order to have the outside fall into place. So I'm going to guide you through a short breathing exercise. Again, breathing is something simple and easy that we can do that relaxes our minds and bodies and brings our attention to the here and now. I'm a person who experiences claustrophobia. I get very anxious on airplanes or even crowded theaters when I feel kind of stuck. And this exercise, square breathing, is something that you can practice anytime when you're feeling stress, anxiety, or overwhelm. And it's something, if you've got kids, I've got teenage kids, you can teach your kids and other people to practice this. It's very simple. So the way that square breathing works, if you look at this diagram, we start at the bottom left and it says to exhale out your air. I'll explain it first and then we'll do it together. Then we inhale to the count of 4, and then we hold our breath to the count of 4, and then we exhale to the count of 4, and then we hold for the count of 4. By doing this, you naturally deepen and slow your breath. And if you actually follow the square with your eyes, for example, when I'm on the airplane, I look at the little tray in front of me and I follow that rectangle, it is a meditation because you're focusing on your breath and your eye movement, and your brain doesn't have time to worry. It doesn't have space or bandwidth to worry about whatever is making you anxious. So let's give this a try. Go ahead and exhale out your air. And then breathe through your nose to the count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Of course, the longer you do it, the more the benefit is going to be. Sometimes if I'm having problems sleeping, I do this as well, and it definitely is a very, very helpful tool. If you're interested in other breath work, I love the work of Andrew Weil. He's the integrated health physician that used to be on Oprah with the bald head and the big beard. And he's got a bunch of breathing exercises on YouTube. In yoga, which is meditation with movement, deep breathing exercises are called pranayama. And also on YouTube, there's tons of yogic breathing exercises, really for anything that you're looking for, to promote sleep, to give you energy, to wake you up, to release stress. And so I suggest that you give that a try. It's a way to practice mindfulness that only takes a few minutes. And these are skills that you can have in your toolbox anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed. So some people say, I've tried meditation or I've tried deep breathing exercises and they just don't work for me. So I want you to look at this slide and ask yourself, what's keeping you from practicing mindfulness? What are some of the obstacles? And I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll. So I want to hear from you. What keeps you from having more mindfulness in your life? And we're going to talk about how to get around that. So doubt is definitely one of them. If you're like, breathing, that's so silly and stupid, like that's not going to help me. If you don't believe it won't, because you're not going to do it. So you want to also prioritize it. I had a client for many, many years that was dealing with some significant depression and anxiety. And I talked with her about the importance of having a daily mindfulness practice. And she was kind of like, yeah, Joyce, whatever. And then I went on vacation for 2 weeks. And when I came back, she said, Joyce, I started practicing mindfulness for 20 minutes every morning, and my depression is so much better. She said she laid out a yoga mat right next to her bed with a bottle of water, and she would get up and do a guided meditation and a 10-minute yoga practice. And she said it set her day up for success, and she felt so much better. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results. So it sounds like many of you just aren't prioritizing it. You're trying to multitask, which of course causes our brains overwhelm. In mindfulness, they really suggest doing one task at a time so that you can be fully present and not distracted, because if you're doing multiple things, your brain is going to be overwhelmed, you're going to make mistakes, and it actually takes more time. So thank you for sharing that. Hopefully that will help you recognize some of the challenges that you'll need to move through if you're going to use this powerful tool to change your life. These are some of the strategies that you can practice to increase mindfulness. We talked about deep breathing and pranayama and John Kabat-Zinn and Andrew Weil, who have the guided breathing exercises. You can also do body scans. So what that means is simply taking a moment, maybe closing your eyes, connecting with your breath. I usually do this seated or maybe laying on the floor, laying on my bed or a yoga mat, and simply starting from the top of your head and scanning your body and noticing where you're holding tension, where you're holding negative emotions or yuck, and breathing into those parts of the body. So I always practice breathing in whatever it is that I need, like if I need hope or peace or serenity or courage. And when I breathe out the yuck. So exhaling what is no longer serving you. Maybe you've absorbed other people's emotions or other people's stress, and it's time to let that go. So body scans can be extremely helpful as well. Having a positive mantra is a mindfulness practice. So that's a tool where when you're experiencing overwhelm or anxiety, you can have a statement that you say to yourself that gets you back on track. And many people during a meditation might have a mantra. So it can be something, that's kind of more yoga oriented, like people say Om or, other chants and meditations. The purpose of that, again, is that when we're chanting or saying a mantra, we can't be worrying about our projects or our bills or other things that we're concerned with. And it gives us a break from our minds, which is extremely healing. I have mantras that I say to myself. I can be a perfectionist and get down on myself. And so I'll say, I'm just a human being, and I'm doing the best that I can, and that's all I can do. Or this too shall pass. So kind of these go-to statements that get you through difficult moments. Connecting to nature is one of the easiest and I think most effective ways to practice mindfulness. I've actually been speaking with a lot of architects. For some reason, I've been hired to speak to a lot of CPAs and architects lately. And the architects talk about sustainability and creating buildings and homes that are more connected to nature. The research shows that when we're connected to nature, it actually heals our trauma, and it is a natural antidote to being on computers and devices too much. So if you can simply get outside for your morning coffee, look at the clouds, feel the wind on your face, the sun on your skin, that is going to help you be more mindful. And connecting to your senses, noticing what you smell, what you feel, what you taste, that brings you into your body and out of your head. I remember years ago taking my daughter to lunch, and she was 8 years old. And we each ordered a sandwich, and I started eating mine, and I was on my phone checking my work emails and responding to them. And my cute little 8-year-old Claudia said, "Wow, what a beautiful sandwich." And I looked at her, and she picked it up, and she was looking at it, and then she smelled it, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, this smells so delicious." And she ate mindfully. She ate slowly. She was enjoying the food. She was talking about the flavors. And I realized I had scarfed my sandwich while being completely distracted with my emails. And of course, we know when we're paying attention to our eating, we feel more full, we eat less. Instead of mindlessly eating. So there's so many ways that mindfulness can improve our health and wellness. Grounding practices are, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling really panicky, simply getting outside, even in bare feet, and connecting to the ground, connecting to the gravity, or if you're in a meeting, feeling your feet against the floor, feeling yourself in the seat, imagining gravity pulling you down, that really helps you feel more rooted and anchored and less anxious. So yoga, again, is mindfulness it's meditation with movement. It's a mindfulness practice. And I, for many years, was intimidated by yoga, and I thought that I needed, cute leggings and to be in better shape and to lose weight before I gave it a try. And I'm so happy that I got over myself and went to the local yoga studio. I started out by going to a mindfulness meditation class where they taught John Kabat-Zinn's program. And that was really transformative. And while I was there, I realized the people who go to the yoga studio are normal people of all ages and all sizes. And attending a basic class or a restorative yoga class was extremely healing and effective. Unplugging from technology is another good skill, and relaxing, progressive muscle relaxation, which is basically where you do that body scan and you might tense up each body part and then release and let it relax. This kind of helps reboot your physiology so that you're feeling better. And mindfulness really is like a reboot for your mind, body, and spirit. So I want to hear from you. On average, how often are you meditating or practicing some kind of mindfulness, something from this list? Having a morning routine where you're not looking at your phone first thing in the morning, you're doing something like journaling, prayer, setting an intention for the day, getting out in nature, going for a short walk, doing a breathing exercise or a meditation. All of that really sets your day up for success. So I'm going to give this another second to see. Looks like a few more of you need to respond here. All right, great. So this is not bad in terms of when I give this presentation for other organizations. Usually the never really tried is a little bit higher. So I love seeing that a number of you have a daily practice. And again, some of you are doing at least once a week or occasionally. So for those of you who are doing this rarely, I'd really like you to give this a try. And for the others of you to really think about how can you incorporate mindfulness into your life on a regular basis. And again, understanding that there's so many improvements that will come to you. So when we meditate, which really to me is, sitting, or you can lay down, you can sit in a chair, you can sit on the floor in what's called easy pose. You just shift your focus internal and you focus on your breath and you begin to notice what's going on inside of you. And some people think that meditation is thinking about nothing. But we're humans, we're going to have those thoughts kind of float in. And it's about noticing the thoughts and then bringing your attention back to the breath or back to your mantra. And it kind of teaches you how to have some space from your thoughts and from your emotions. And when we have that space, we can begin to observe. We can begin to observe our negative thinking, our inner saboteur that we talked about a little bit last time. And when we learn to notice our thinking, we are empowered to change it. So if you have harmful self-talk that is negative, that's going to fuel stress, anxiety, and depression. But if you instead shift your thinking to gratitude or to relating to yourself as if you're your own loving parent, you're your own best friend, you're your own compassionate advocate, that is going to help you practice self-compassion. So again, our emotions, I feel, are a normal response to everything that we've been through. We can't judge other people and say, like, I wouldn't respond that way, because each of us is unique. We have our own biochemistry. We have our own unique lived experiences, traumas, strengths, challenges, and our feelings, again, are a normal response to our nature and our nurture. And sometimes it might look like we're overreacting to something, but that's because we have stuffed feelings. So if you stuff your anger or your sadness and you're holding that in your body, not only is that going to cause impaired physical health and mental health, if something happens that taps into that, sometimes that whole well of emotion can come out. So we want to learn how to honor our feelings and notice when we're mad, notice when we're sad or upset, or frustrated, and really honor that instead of dismissing them. Like, practice being empathic toward yourself and saying, gosh, I feel hurt right now. And how can I take care of myself by not only acknowledging those feelings, but also thinking about how I might have to communicate differently in my relationships to advocate for myself and set different boundaries. So we also want to help you not judge your feelings. My own therapist said, Joyce, your feelings are neither good nor bad. They are as they are. It just is what it is. There's no right or wrong. It just is what it is. And I said, oh gosh, you're right. And she laughed because I was still doing it, still judging right and wrong. So just, if you're upset, instead of being frustrated with yourself or being angry or hurt, practice self-compassion, remove that judgment, and keep asking yourself, am I making the choices that I want? Because sometimes our feelings or our body are deeper wisdom, they house deeper wisdom. And when we connect to that deeper wisdom or higher self, that true self, rather than our ego, can start to guide our life. So having gut decisions about your relationships, about your work, about how you're spending your time. We talked about this briefly before, but practicing gratitude is one of the easiest ways to shift your thinking from negative to positive. So when I go to sleep at night, I find that running through my day and thinking about what I'm grateful for, even if it was a really crappy day, thinking through, like, what were the good parts and what am I grateful for? Not only does that help me not worry about my next day and what's coming ahead, it helps me think about pleasant thoughts, which helps relax me and help me fall asleep. So some people keep a gratitude journal, or they might, during meal times, practice gratitude. Whatever is going to help you kind of train yourself to look at the good parts is going to be really helpful. Because in any situation, we have a choice to either kind of zero in on the negative aspects, which is kind of biologically what we're predispositioned to do to keep ourselves, out of danger. But we want to instead choose to look at the good parts. So when we are in relationships and we want to improve our emotional intelligence, we want to be rooted in the present. And we want to become mindful of defensiveness, like when we're getting hooked, when we're getting triggered, and when we're making excuses or trying to like overly explain ourselves. We want to learn how to take responsibility for ourselves. So being self-aware involves being aware of our areas of deficit, or if we've disappointed or hurt someone, and making amends for that, having integrity and apologizing. And this goes a long way at work too. You know, in my former life, I was a CEO for 13 years, and learning how to have humility as a leader and to acknowledge when we've made mistakes and to apologize. It shifts the culture of one of compassion and forgiveness and awareness and humanity. And we want to be open and flexible. So mindfulness can kind of help us expand our consciousness and our willingness to be open-minded and less rigid. So our willingness to look at problems or situations from other angles, to listen to other people non-defensively, to consider their viewpoints, all of that is going to help you tremendously. Detachment, we talked about briefly before, is a mindfulness practice where you can learn to separate yourself from negative emotion. So again, negative emotions of others, learning how to kind of detach from that so that you can observe toxic people, but you're not absorbing their negativity. And so mindfulness as a detachment as a mindfulness practice involves pausing. You know, if you're in a conflict or you're experiencing some negative emotion, either within yourself or in the context of a relationship, to pause, to connect with the breath, to slow down, bring yourself to the here and now, and to zoom out to see the bigger picture. You know, like that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and think about, is this issue something that is important to address, or in the grand scheme of things, is this just a little blip in a moment of time? And imagining that you have a protective barrier between you and the other person, like plexiglass, like the shields that we were wearing for COVID, where their negativity, you know, just bounces off of you. My kid's social worker at school, when they were in elementary school, said, be a duck. Learn how to let things kind of roll off your feathers. And that's really a skill. When we're in arguments with other people, sometimes we lock horns and we get stuck in the conflict. And so we want to learn how to unhook so that we can be detached in a healthy way and have a productive conversation. So again, detachment involves, okay, say you're upset, you're angry, you're sad, whatever it is, you're experiencing grief. I'm not talking about denying those feelings. I'm talking about learning how to observe them. So in some therapy practices, they suggest almost imagining that you are observing yourself having those feelings, and you're practicing self-compassion and empathy, but you're not allowing those feelings to eclipse you or overtake you. You are in charge, and you can determine how you're going to advocate for yourself and manage those feelings and express them in a way that is healthy and demonstrates respect for yourself and others. Detachment also can help you, like I said, separate from the negative emotions of others. So if you have some bullying in the workplace, or so you work with a difficult person, I loved Jack's book about the psychopathic CEO. If you're working with somebody like that, you can use healthy detachment to kind of separate from a challenging person like that. So some of the things that you can do, and I describe these a lot more in my book, are imagining that you take, this is the container exercise, that you kind of do a body scan and you take all the yuck and you visualize putting it in a container and kind of shelving it. In conflict, you can agree to drop your end of the rope in the tug of war, and that gives you some time and space. The lifeguard analogy refers to, if you're a caretaker in a relationship, you're an overfunctioner and you tend to take too much responsibility. In lifeguard training, they say that the last thing you want to do is jump in the pool with the drowning person. You want to stay grounded and anchored and safe so that you're better able to help the person by throwing them a life raft or whatever it might be. So really remembering for you to stay grounded and clear no matter what else is happening around you. So I'm going to look at the next poll here. I think I shared that for too long. Sorry about that. And I want to hear from you as we talk about this. What do you think are some of the benefits of mindfulness that you particularly would benefit from? So in Al-Anon, which is the support group for loved ones of people dealing with addiction, and I really think that Al-Anon can help each of us deal with relationships that are challenging in any type of way. And they talk about detachment with love. So you still love and care about the person that you're with, but you are not over functioning, you're not over caretaking, not overly taking responsibility for them. You have some healthy separation so that they can kind of work on themselves and you're not enabling them. And I think that's really important for those of you who have kids or teenagers or young adult children to learn how to practice that detachment with love. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll here. And it sounds like for you, a bunch of these are appealing to you, especially improvement of thought. So thank you. I'm glad that you are paying attention to this and interested in this. And I hope that you practice more mindfulness so that you can benefit in those ways. So many of us suffer from the disease of being busy and multitasking, and the research shows that it negatively impacts us in all of these ways. So what can you do to be more mindful? Deepak Chopra and Oprah did a 21-day mindfulness challenge that's still on YouTube, so it's free. You could give that a try. Working on turning off notifications so that you're not interrupted throughout the day with your social media or news alerts, that you work at chunking your tasks so that you're not constantly shifting gears, and really being present in meetings so that you aren't missing content, that you're listening, that you're engaging, and you're not thinking about the next thing that you need to do. Making sure that you plan for mindful moments throughout the day. So for me, I tend to get stress headaches around 3 o'clock. So I schedule 30 minutes before that to either go on a walk, do a short yoga practice, do some breathing exercises. All of that is going to help you tremendously. So the aspects of ego. So mindfulness helps us become mindful of our egos, which is our mind's understanding of ourselves. And it helps us really connect with that deeper, higher self, that true self, maybe your spirit or soul, however you want to conceptualize that. And I love this quote again from Eckhart Tolle, wonderful mindfulness author. Whenever you feel superior or inferior to someone, that's the ego in you. So I find that interesting because we know when we feel superior, that might be ego related, but also when we feel inferior, that's our egos, because innately we are all deserving and worthy. So when we feel negative, we're not embracing that inner worth. And in our third presentation, I'm talking about the powerful connection between self-worth and net worth. So it is really important to embrace your worth. So mindfulness and emotional intelligence, when we work on our mindfulness, when we meditate regularly, And I love apps like Calm and Headspace. If others of you have other mindfulness apps that you like, please share them in the chat. I also like Yoga with Adriene that's free on YouTube if you're interested in giving yoga a try. As we cultivate mindfulness, we learn to have more self-awareness of our emotions, and we increase our ability to manage our emotions effectively. We can also become more motivated to have productive conversations and conflict resolution. And we can become more attuned to other people's emotions. As a therapist, empathy and being present with other people is the most important skill. So when you are present and you're noticing people's facial expressions, their tone of voice, their body language, you are picking up on a lot more information than if you're distracted and you're half listening to them. And emotional intelligence involves finessing the relationship, mediating and communicating and being flexible and adaptable. And when I was CEO, that was probably my most important skill, to keep my leadership team communicating, happy, functioning, keeping up that morale. And that took a lot of emotional intelligence, especially because I had a couple people on the team that weren't super fond of one another. So that can be really challenging. High emotional intelligence involves all of these characteristics listed on this slide. I like the work of Daniel Goleman. He wrote a lot of great books about emotional intelligence. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, it really can help you with your career success. When you know how to relate to people, when you're empathic, when you're authentic and real, that is going to help you do much, much better. So again, learning how to be present, take responsibility for yourself, focus on empathy, which is putting yourself in the other person's shoes, imagining how they feel, all really important. When we apply mindfulness to finance, we can tap into deeper intuition when we're negotiating or making financial decisions. When I was selling my business, I had 50 prospective buyers. I had 8 offers. And when I was meeting with the 8 prospective buyers, I used mindfulness to help me make the decision. So as we were meeting one another and kind of interviewing one another, I took notes. And one might think that I was writing down the things that they were saying about the price or the structure of the deal, but I actually was writing how I felt in my body as I was having the conversation. And I wrote things like, I feel nauseous. I do not feel like what this person's saying is aligned with how I'm feeling. So noticing that I wasn't feeling trusting of certain people, and I used my intuition as my guide. And I really fully feel that that helped me make the best decision. I turned down the biggest price tag and chose somebody else who felt much more aligned with my personal mission for the company. And I ended up making 4 times more in the exit than that initial price tag, because the company I chose allowed me to reinvest. So really, mindfulness can help you in so many ways. It also will help you be resilient and to move through challenges. So part of mindfulness is choosing a growth mindset, recognizing that progress isn't linear. You know, we all have setbacks. We might lose a job. We might have a breakup. We might have a crisis or a health issue within our family. But we want to look at, you know, honoring those dips, but understanding that we're still growing and evolving and moving forward. It's also about letting go of what we cannot change, you know, practicing some surrender and acceptance. The more that you can connect with your breath, Eckhart Tolle says 1 conscious breath is a meditation. So if you're on a commute, on a train, you're in your car, you're in a meeting, simply connecting with your breath, noticing your posture and correcting it, moving, all of that is going to help you. And if you commit to some sort of practice, whether it's a meditation or yoga or connecting with nature, you will feel better. So now is the time for you to write any questions that you might have. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the final poll, which is the training results. What are you going to do differently based on today's presentation? So like last time, I'm reminding you to use your benefits so that you can be mindful and present with your health, with your family, to use the employee assistance program, because counselors and therapists like myself teach mindfulness as well as other tools from cognitive behavioral therapy and other approaches that will help you not only in your mental health, but in your relationships and in your jobs. So and the EAP offers a lot of other resources for a variety of personal issues that you might be dealing with. Again, here are some free resources. If you have people in your lives who do not have insurance, this is a way for them to have access to some mental health services. These are some of my favorite mindfulness links. These are clickable links on the slides, which of course you can access through that landing page. So definitely check those out. And again, this is the book that Jack and the CFO Leadership Council generously sent you all the Kindle. So make sure that you received that. And this book teaches a lot of these practical tools and tips, and really focuses on how they can improve financial health and wellness. So I'd love to hear what you think about it. And now I'm going to kind of review your responses. So more meditation and breathing by far. I love some more yoga. That's fantastic. Unplugging from technology. So really a lot of different responses here. The morning practice, I'm so excited to see that many of you are going to do that, because the research shows that that really is the most important thing to do to set your day up for success. So now I'm happy to answer any questions that might have come up. Again, there's my contact information and the QR code for the landing page. And I also welcome anyone to direct message me or email me if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking within the group. So I'll go ahead and invite Jack back to moderate any questions that might have come up.
Yeah. Hi, Joyce. There were a few questions, but you actually answered all of them shortly after they were asked. So yeah, I don't have any that you didn't already cover. So two people did ask though, and one maybe missed it when you said, but can you recommend some apps that people might share, just because it came up twice? So
yeah, absolutely. So again, Calm and Headspace are two great mindfulness apps. But simply, even if you look at, there's a magazine called Mindful Magazine that I really like that has great online articles as well. I would suggest following the authors that I mentioned, like Eckhart Tolle, John Kabat-Zinn. I love Tara Brach, and also Pema Chodron is another great one. Interestingly, they are all from the same publisher that published my book, and they are really the mindfulness experts. It's the publisher is Sounds True. So anything on Sounds True's website is going to be really, really helpful. So thank you. I'm seeing some nice notes in here, some thank yous, and a little applause. I really appreciate that. And just, yeah, any improvements that you can make on this are going to help you feel better.
okay, well, very good. I think we covered all of the. Oh, I just got a DM one, and this question is: you recommended yoga in particular as a form of exercise for this. However, I prefer more cardio and weightlifting. Are they adequate, or is there something specific about yoga that makes it better for mindfulness?
Well, I think, okay, so yoga, the thing about yoga is that throughout the practice, they have you connect with the breath. So all the movements there's movements for when we're inhaling, when we're exhaling. And as you do the practice, you are also connecting with your body. And often there's mantra involved. So it's a great fit. Even if you do it in combination, I, at the yoga classes I go to, I love it. I see a lot of men, especially in their 50s and 60s, that go once a week for mobility and for stretching. So even just to kind of cross train and do it as, something additional. I do think that running is also a meditation. If you're feeling your feet on the ground or walking, or, you're focusing on your breath, that can be extremely meditative. Even gardening or cleaning your house or washing dishes can be active meditations. So it's really anytime you bring your attention to the breath and your senses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I told you, Joyce, this, but I've done yoga and I'm fairly good at most forms of exercise, but I am terrible at yoga. There's never been anything that challenged me. And like my coach, she's always encouraged me to do yoga. And I just said, I'm terrible at it. And she's like, well, maybe that's the point. Maybe it's because it's identifying some weak areas that you need to improve upon. It's like you can just go to the gym and lift weights, but you're good at that. You don't really need to improve on that. So it was interesting, but you're getting a lot of great compliments. I particularly love the fact people thank me. Like I coached you up for this presentation or something like that. So
Well, you invited me and
indeed. So, but I do thank you for your generosity. But Joyce, this was wonderful. I hope you get a chance to read some of the flattering comments in the chat area. And we'll be doing it one more time a week from now. And we're looking forward to that. We also have, for those on the call too, we are kicking off our Distinguished Speaker Series next week. It's with Stephen Covey, and that will be August 17th at 4 o'clock.